that, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Sim Racers Group F4 Series. This is round number 6 of the season, coming to you today from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Kenan Miller. Joshua Wilkie is our producer for tonight's broadcast. Well, Kenan, we're about to get the first half of this season fully wrapped up, and we head to what, in my view, is the greatest race course in the world. Well, the greatest racing facility, that is. The Indy Road Course, it's a bit like Marmite. Some people hate it, while others absolutely love it. So I think the word for the evening for this broadcast is probably going to be decisive.
Absolutely, Ron. It's always a beautiful time to be back home in Indiana, whether it's Indy cars or to watch Formula 4 cars go on the road course. It's a really tricky 14-turn track. There's not a whole lot of elevation change, but there is a little bit more than you would expect, especially through the final 3 or 4 turns. It's going to make for some really good racing. You obviously have the long front straightaway that will be very key for an attack with the draft going into turn 1, probably the best place you can pass on the course. So drivers have a pretty good challenge here. On the other hand, compared to what we've seen so far in the SRG Formula 4 series, it's on the more easier side of things than what we've seen the drivers handle already. So I think everybody's up to the challenge.
You'll just have to wait and see how these racers try and tackle this race that we have coming up. It's been a fun season up to this point. I've seen many different racetracks. When just looking through last time out here in this series, we are running at Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That track up there in Canada. It's a fun one there. It's one of the older scans here in the sim with asphalt about as patchy as my face when I was 16. So it's definitely a bit of a change going from there to here with asphalt that is silky smooth. This is one of the tracks that I've actually gotten the opportunity to visit on multiple occasions in real life. I absolutely love Indy, albeit I'm a little bit biased because I'm an IndyCar guy, but that's neither here nor there. But currently in practice and running on board with Jacob Guyton, heading his way down into turn number 1. You can see the curbs on the inside there as well, the car on the inside of there as well. That first chicane, Kenan, that is going to be a choke point for these racers, especially on lap 1.
Yeah, it certainly will, especially with the standing start. Turn 1 is always an exciting corner to be at and watch from the J stand at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But you can see they're topping out almost 142 miles an hour going in, and they're not braking until about the 200-foot marker. So they're getting the cars slowed down in a very short period of time. It's a really good opportunity to try and point your car underneath someone, but you do have to be cautious. There is a pretty good high curbing right there on the inside of turn 1 that'll really unsettle the car. It can put you in a bad spot to kind of wash you back out into who you're trying to make a pass on.
Yeah, those high curbs that you can see on the inside of both turn number 1 and turn number 7, along with turn number 12 that we're about to see him come up to right now. Right as you get back onto the oval for a couple of moments, you immediately have to dive down to this infield section, added in after the I think the Columbia School of Broadcasting would want me to say fustercluck of a race that was the 2005 United States Grand Prix. They added in that infield chicane layout, and ever since then, that has pretty much been the standard use. Even when MotoGP ran here, in which they ran the track backwards, which is a whole nother story. But nonetheless, that infield section right towards the end of the lap throws another curveball towards these racers as well, and throws forth one of the most challenging final corners, as far as I'm concerned, in the world of road ovals. Turn 14 here, it is just tight enough whereby you can't really go flat out through there without having some stones or having a little bit of crap in your pants afterwards.
Yeah, it's a very challenging section, the turn 12, 13, 14. Formula 4 cars, they've got a really nice weight to power ratio. They will handle it a lot easier than you may see sports cars, but it's very particular in the line. There's not multiple lines you can take through it, so you'll find a lot of single file through there, and that's also, if you don't get out of turn 14 with a lot of speed, you're really going to hurt your opportunity to make a pass going into turn 1. It's really your best place to pass. You do get a long straightaway between turn 6 and 7. It just doesn't quite seem to be enough like it is down the front straightaway at Indianapolis.
Yeah, so thankfully with these draft-heavy cars, I think we will see them get somewhat stuck together, but we'll just have to wait and see with the rest of the twists and turns around this track. 14 turns in all. It is a stunner of a road course. It was introduced back in 2000 for the U.S. Grand Prix, and I just hear a Taco Bell ding from our producer. I think did that go out on the broadcast? I hope it did. Okay, yeah, there we go. It's fitting we're covering the Taco Bell. I heard the Taco Bell ding, and I was like, oh no, I think sleep deprivation has finally caught up with me.
Yeah, I was actually kind of stunned there too, but Yokira Taco Bell, what can I say? Greg Meyer has a beautiful livery on his car. Gotta love the green wheel accents to it, and we see him kind of going through that tricky 12 and 13, 14 section right now. It's very easy to handle with the cars that they're in today, so I don't see it being too much of an issue in this series.
Oh man, I'm still trying to get my bearings straight after that Taco Bell dong there. That caught me by surprise, I can tell you that much. But still in practice with about 5 minutes left to go. We'll let you know that Josh Leslie is at the top of the board here in this practice session. A 126.952 is the current top time. The only driver below that 1 minute 27 barrier, Lloyd Conway, slotted in P2. Dan Swanbeck, Jacob Guyton, and Aaron Van Wagner round out your top 5 2025 as it stands currently here in practice. 16 cars currently have set a time here at the present moment. I believe we have a newcomer here in the SRG world in the form of your current P14 runner of Nemo Alcazar. So we'll see that racer in the number 26 machine. There he is stopped in the pits right now, and there he is with a very nice looking Sim Racers group car, and I can see some SMB logos on there as well. You always love to see it. Love to see the SMB and the slow motion racing logos on some of the cars up and down the grid, and both this Tuesday night F4 series and the other Wednesday night F3s that you can catch here on slow motion broadcasting as well. But Kenan, as we still have a little bit of time left here in practice, I think we may want to take a look at the championship point standings heading into this race. We've had a pretty good season to keep this up and rolling, and since you're the full-time guy here on these F4 shows, I think I'll let you talk us through the championship points if you don't mind.
Yeah, certainly. So we got the championship points up here. It's been Joshua Leslie's series so far, the opening first half of the season. It's really just been dominating, getting a lot of wins and doing them pretty handily. He did have a little bit of a contest there through Watkins Glen that I believe was pulled off by, I forget who won that race, but outside of that, he's pretty much been the class of the field. He's leading well ahead by, quick math says, almost 30 points. So that's pretty good over second place Lloyd Conway, who has really put together a good season. He's had many top fives and has run well, and Aaron Van Wagner really trying to keep a good push with Conway. See everybody else falling back, Adam Duvall, Greg Meyer finishing out the top five. But we've seen some really good racing all season so far. We're at the halfway point, marking at Indianapolis here, and certainly seen a lot of improvement from some of the newcomers. We've seen some of the guys that were maybe a middle pack driver last season have really stepped up and shown they're here to kind of see themselves improve. As we know, the way the Sim Racers group runs things, it's really quite neat. They actually have a hands-on retail facility located on the east side of San Jose, California, I believe, and that's where you see a lot of the Sim Racer group cars. They have 10 different setups there where you can go and test drive and do what you want with the time that you have, and join the series as well. So between the mix of who's at home and who's actually physically all together in the building, it makes for quite an interesting series, and the Formula 4 is the step up to getting into the Wednesday night Formula 3 series. So it's a really good starting ground. As we know, there's no damage on in these races, so it allows for an optimal amount of track time, and that's what we're really looking for here, is getting drivers better.
And it's interesting at this point of the season, because I have been on a Sim Racers group show up to this point here in season 3 of 2025, albeit it was in a very different context compared to this. It was actually working as the producer over on the F3 shows. It was round number 1 at Imola that I had to produce that, and that was an interesting experience there, being able to be on a show without having my mic open. I think I could terrorize JR and Mr. Charles Michelle is my co-commentator over on the Weekend Warriors, and you can catch here on SMB as well. But that F3 series, super fun. This F4 series, though, absolutely fantastic. It was the first series that we brought over here to slow motion broadcasting all the way back in January, and I think Mr. Joshua Wilkie and I were calling that race with a former winner here in the F4s, Mr. Adam Thompson, or as I like to call him here on SMB, Chairman Meow. We were all making up that broadcast. That was a very fun race at Mugello all the way back in January of this year. But as we retell those stories from the past, getting right towards the end of this practice session here, and a reminder to anyone who hasn't tuned into this series before here on SMB, a quick little reminder as to how the format works out here. Currently in the midst of this 1 hour long practice session, a 15-minute long qualifying session will follow, an open session as well. So these drivers have the track not all to themselves. The drivers have all of the track to run with all of the drivers around it. So you're going to be seeing these racers really start to struggle for some space around this, only a tick under 2.5 mile long track. So we'll have to worry about the real estate space in this 15-minute long qualifying session coming up, and the race coming up will be 20 minutes long, as is the usual case here in the F4s. But now we can switch our attention into qualifying, Kenan, where of course finding real estate going to be important, but also nailing down the run, nailing down the lap is going to be super vital as well. Yeah,
it certainly is. As we see the cars all exiting pit lane, getting ready to go on their out laps, there's Going to be a major difference on where you can position yourself. I think there's certainly a few tenths to be found if you can get out of the turn 6 and turn 14 very clean and utilize the draft. It seems sometimes it gets bunched up. We do only have 16 cars on the track, which is a really nice field, but without some of the previous seasons where we were blending in 3 different classes, it does open up the space a little better this season, which has definitely been beneficial to the drivers. So you're going to want to put a good, nice, smooth lap. You can't let the traffic in front of you slow you down, but you also want to have somebody in front of you that can kind of keep your pace and get the timing right, that you don't really catch up to him and can get a fast lap. So I'm kind of surprised to see Joshua Leslie. He was first out for pit road. He's looking forward to, I think, going out, hitting the lap time, and getting to the top of the board right away. He did almost 27 practice laps, it looked like. That was about 3 times more than Lloyd Conway put in during that 1-hour practice session. So he's putting in a lot of laps. He's found a lot of speed. He was about 5 tenths quicker in the practice session. So I'm looking for him to go to the top of the board and let other people try and catch him.
Yeah, and trying to find any sort of space around this track to set in a good time and try and hit this lap early. Let's see if he will be able to do it. Riding on board with Josh Leslie as he heads his way down that start-finish straightaway. A very long run before you even have to think about breathing on that brake pedal into turn number 1. Really important to try and nail down the brakes through here. You got that killer curve on the inside, and also that turn 2 comes out of nowhere. Really important to get a good run through there. Leslie doesn't get the best of exits as he heads his way through 3 into 4 right now. Another sideways snap for him. Heading off through this section, the tire temperature is not very high in this car. Heading his way off through the chicane, big clobber over the curb. That's another killer curve here. We have seen drivers pick up some airtime, not only in open wheelers and the likes of Indy cars and some more, but stock cars have even picked up some airtime through there. So want to avoid these killer curves as much as you can. Down Homeland Boulevard into turn number 7 through 8 and 9 right now. This open layout of that series of corners, actually not the original version. Originally it was 2 very tight hairpins heading off through that section as you head your way through turn number 10 back through the infield of what is turn 2 on the oval. Now spit out through the south chute into turn number 12. A good braking zone to try and nail down. Could see some drivers go for an overtake through there, but I don't think it will be the best strategy in the world. Another snap through lucky number turn 13. Got that pit entry on the outside line, and here's that final turn, turn number 14. Want to keep it tight there in these low power F4 cars. Want to keep that momentum rolling and keep the track distance tight. A not very good lap there from Josh Leslie, but since it's the first on the board, it's top of the board. But I would not be surprised if the likes of Lloyd Conway is able to pip that.
Yeah, and we see all the times getting ready to fall in, and Lloyd Conway does top it with a 127.984, so he's found a little bit of speed there. We did watch with that onboard. Leslie certainly had a few slides with the front wheels, trying to get the tires warm and get it up to speed. I think just kind of through my research, looking at all the drivers' different lap times, everybody's best lap time during a run usually came around 3rd or 4th lap out on track. That seemed to be when the tires were most optimal. So I think he'll give it a few more laps, but Lloyd Conway definitely sitting at the top of the board as we're about a quarter of the way through practice, or qualifying, excuse me.
Yeah, I think we're in the whoa, that's a sideways snap there coming out of the final turn. That's a 34 driver there with a huge moment coming out of it. That was Samoido with that moment out of the turn. Thankfully, he keeps it going in a straight line, albeit his tires have been probably turned into rectangles as a result of all that. But I will say we are in this sort of like, it feels kind of like an extension of practice with slightly more to risk here. I think these racers just trying to settle into a groove. Yeah, the track conditions probably a little bit different than they were in practice. You can see a little bit early on in the morning here in the sim, currently tracking 9 a.m. in sim time. Of course, it's 9 p.m. Actually over that here on the east coast of the U.S. So complete polar opposites to what it would be in real life right now. We are seeing that sun rise and the track temperatures start to rise as well. Currently at 76 degrees Fahrenheit for the track temperature, 71 Fahrenheit for the ambient, but relative humidity at 94%. Ken, I know you live a little bit farther down south than I do in the city of Philadelphia, but 94 degrees humidity, maybe I'm a bit biased, but that is terrible. That is terrible weather as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's certainly high humidity. It's going to make it certainly real sweaty and sticky for all the fans around the track. It'll add a little bit of slickness to the overall level of grip that they do see on the racing surface. But I think with the cooler temps, the cloudy temperatures, it kind of balanced itself out for the race. I don't think it'll be too much of concern with the drivers. And we did have Dan Swan back there also go to the top of the board with the 127.908. So starting to see the time sort of fall. I would expect we possibly could see a driver break into the 126s as we get later on into the qualifying session. Joshua Leslie, he actually caught himself on the backstretch in his second hot lap and spun himself out. I haven't seen if he's pitted for tires or he may have continued on to try and see if he could get anything out of the warmth from the tires. So there, I think we're going to go back and look at him. He just gets a little bobble. We've seen him really struggle with the front end and keeping it where he wants it to go. Just catches a little dirt there, probably affects the grip, and he did spin it somewhere along that lap. So we'll see if he's able to pull it. That's really where the challenge comes in qualifying. You've got to be able to not get off tracks. You have to run a fully clean lap, and when you're really pushing yourself as hard as you can to be the top of the board, it really is a fine line between running the fastest lap or getting it off track and having it disqualified.
Yeah, you know, in this race coming up with a 20x disqualification limit, we may have to talk about those incident points in the race as well. Very easy to pick them up here at this rather flat racetrack. Lloyd Conway was able to jump up into the pole position a couple of moments ago, a 127.770. Dan Swanbeck now jumps in front of him. Perfect time for that camera swap. Mr. Wilkie, he goes up to the top of the board at a 127.722. So the battle is very much on for the pole position, but as it stands right now, it's only a two-car battle because Josh Leslie hasn't been able to put together a full lap. You can see the 4 of Jose Navas go off a little bit farther up the road, but Leslie setting his personal best in the first sector, the best in the second. Doesn't really set too well in the third sector, but as he heads his way off through the final few corners into turn number 13 for the last time in this lap, let's see what sort of time Josh Leslie will be able to set on the board. Will it be an improvement to jump his way up into third, or will he potentially shoot himself all the way up into the pole? Let's see as Leslie comes to the line. That 55 machine, what time is it from him? A 128.3 before, a 127.3 now. A big gain from Leslie.
Yeah, that's just a really nice lap. That's very on par with what he was putting down in practice. He may even put down a better lap time now that he's kind of gotten himself comfortable. He's felt the limit. He knows the car can do it. So he's certainly put himself at the top of the board. This is what we've seen week after week with Joshua Leslie. He comes out. He's a fierce, strong competitor. He really drives the track well, and he's got a lot of speed in him. We'll have to see what he can do to put together a race here in a few minutes.
Yeah, so if Leslie can hold on to that pole, which based off the gap he has at the present moment, I certainly would not rule out that being the case. We still have some more drivers looking to fight for something. That's Aaron Van Wagner with a big gain here in qualifying. Jumps up to fourth right there at a 127.8. So the fourth driver in this qualifying session to break below that 1 minute 28 barrier. Of course, here in qualifying, you do have to play that dangerous game when it comes to what sort of draft can you pick up and what sort of draft are you willing to lose at the risk of just getting a good time on the board. Van Wagner, a big improvement from him. His previous time that was actually counted in sim was a 137.2, so a massive improvement from him. Was able to set something a little bit quicker, and let's see what he may be able to do on this lap. Looking through at his first few sectors, that's not going to help him out. Contact being made as they head their way off through the mid sector. That was coming out of turn 7. That was Nemo Alcazar with that moment right in front. Rejoins the track in the 6th, going to run into the back of it. We'll take a look at a replay to see that moment. A big lockup down into the turn, trying to get that spun back around the right direction. And yeah, contact being made out of the turn. A clumsy incident for sure, but an easy one to happen through a section of the track like that.
Yeah, Nemo just got it a little locked up there going into 7 and sort of kept it straight. Wanted to keep back on his line. Didn't really see Aaron Van Wagner on his way. That's going to take out that queue time. He really looked like he did have a pretty nice lap, and we see he's going to come into the pits, put on some fresh tires, make sure the car's checked out. So he may be able to give it another 2 or 3 more laps in a hot lap attempt as we're coming up on 5 minutes left in qualifying. It seems like the qualifyings just go by so quickly. You have to be quick to put a time down, or you start to kind of realize you've lost the track.
Yeah, so we are getting into crunch time in this qualifying session. I will also raise this. The track temperatures are slowly but surely starting to rise. It's gone up 2 degrees Fahrenheit just as long as we've been doing this. As that was Cy Nathan going the wrong side of the cone. I would hope that he knows that he doesn't have to do that. In fact, I think that may count as potentially an unsafe pit exit. I'm not. I mean, it is very safe. Some would say even too safe of a pit exit. As Josh Leslie got to come across the line now, and is that an improvement on his qualifying time? He set a personal best in the final two sectors, and yes, he does improve to 127.2 there as he spins down into the turns of Josh Leslie, going to improve and then burn the car down as he has his way off through turn number 1. We follow Lloyd Conway making a late call to come down pit lane. Let's see if there's more rubber bolted onto that 77 car. With 4 minutes now left here in qualifying, 15 drivers have set a qualifying time at the moment. The only one who hasn't is Michael Hun in the number 83 car, although he has not joined the racetrack at all here in this qualifying session. I will have to check to see whether or not he's actually in the sim at all. Looks like he is not, so it looks like we'll just have 15 drivers setting qualifying times here, but hey, we still got a good field of race cars, and that run into turn number 1 is still going to be festive for us on the broadcast, terrifying for those drivers out there on the track.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good race. I mean, I think you're going to see quite a battle into turn 1. Dan Swanbeck, he's been improving all year long. You see he's sitting in second place. Jose Navas also just put down an absolute flyer of a lap, getting right there close to the 127.726. So I'm surprised Lloyd Conway, in a way, is sort of the shock so far with this qualifying session, as we see he's being in fourth. Usually it's a contest between him and Leslie for these poles. So it's going to be quite an interesting mix. It's going to be tight. We're going to have a lot of contact, a lot of good side-by-side racing. And it really could be 5 or 6 different cars potential race, given the mistakes and things that you may see throughout this adventure at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, so we'll call this the calm before the storm, before things start to get real hair-raising in the race coming up. But right now, we've got about 2.5 minutes left to go here in qualifying. We follow Embriette Hyde heading her way off through the second to last turn at turn number 13. We'll see. I think she's setting herself up for a qualifying attack here on this next lap. Yeah, very slow on this lap, so Hyde going to give it one more shake. Currently qualified in P13 as it stands presently. We'll have to see if the driver, the number 93, will be able to make her way up the running order. Let's just wait and see. Currently at a 130.4 is Hyde, so definitely some room to gain as she heads her way off through turn number 1, hitting the apex pretty well through there. That first chicane rather clunky as far as I am concerned. I think if there's any section of this track that could go with a little bit of a redesign, is probably that first chicane.
Yeah, it's certainly a little bit of a technical spot for the drivers. See them reusing all of the curbs there going down the backstretch of Holman Boulevard. So it's all tricky here. It's very flat. It's very hard to see your apexes. There's kind of an awkward flow to it if you want to be successful here. So it does take a lot out of the car, and certainly a lot of ability through all these drivers to navigate this course.
You know, in certain cars, that first chicane has such awful flow that I think it got jumped at a rap battle. So thankfully, we won't have to deal with the horrors of that in real life. We'll just have to worry about it in this sim, that first chicane. Oh. Anyways, I will say Josh Leslie was just able to set in another good time, improves by 0.02 of a second. That's a moment for a Hyde down into turn number 12. Not been the best lap in the world from Embriette as she heads her way through the final corner. Will it be an improvement from the driver of the number 93 car? Let's just see as she comes on to that start-finish stretch for what's probably going to be the final time in this qualifying session. That is just a setup to a setup, non-improvement there, a couple of seconds off. So not going to be an improvement, but we'll see her have another attempt at the lap. A reminder, folks, that these drivers do have pretty much as much time as they want. If you cross that start finish line with 1 second left on the clock, you will be able to complete your lap. So I think we will see these racers running out to the end. Leslie still improving. Not sure if anyone will be able to challenge him for the pole, but we do have some very close battles for some of the lower spots. Here's one involving this driver, Jacob Guyton, in the number 64 car, heading his way off through turn number 12 right now. Not very far off of Adam Duvall, currently qualified in P6, only 0.03 of a second between those racers presently. Leslie still continues to improve as that's a huge snap for the 64, and around he goes, hits the wall. Probably gonna have to tow back to pit lane. Major damage on the back end of that race car. Of course, the damage is not in effect here, but that will be enough to bring his qualifying session to a close. Leslie, I think he's about to cross the line here in a couple of moments time, or already just did. Yes, he did, and improves to a 127.032. Insane stuff from the driver of the 55. Only a few more drivers left to cross the line, but clearly Josh Leslie, the standout star in qualifying today.
Yeah, he certainly was somewhat as expected the way we saw practice going. He certainly got a very good handle on the track. Lloyd Conway, though, coming through the final couple corners, I don't know if he'll quite have enough, but we'll see whether he may be able to get himself up into the second grid position here. He's coming out of the final corner now. That'll be the real interesting part. That's kind of the two drivers we've seen really battling back and forth for a lot of these wins in the podium positions, and doesn't look like he improved this time at all, so he will remain in fourth there. So really good run by Dan Swanbeck. I think that's really the star of this qualifying. Leslie is certainly getting the pole, but Dan Swanbeck finding himself on the podium of this qualifying session is just a really nice lap that he put together.
Yeah, so we'll see those two line up on the front row in this race that we have coming up. We'll say as well, to anyone curious, that small little black box against Lloyd Conway's name right there. No, that was not a sort of graphical error. I believe our new live timing software has a brand new feature where it'll show who picks up a black flag. So that'll be very, very nice to have. I've had moments like that on the air where I've had to convince everybody that I've been doing a show with that, yes, a driver has picked up a black flag, and no, it's not just a meatball flag. So thankfully, that'll be a nice new little feature. And of course, we will be able to fact check all of that information in live time here in this session. About to click over to this race that we have coming up and brace ourselves for what is going to be 20 minutes of action-packed racing from the start all the way through to the finish. And to get it all up and rolling, let's take a look at the starting grid here for the 6th round of this season of Sim Racers Group F4 action. It'll be Josh Leslie starting from the pole, Dan Swanbeck in P2. Jose Navas will start this race in 3rd. Next to Lloyd Conway in 4th. Aaron Van Wagner will start in 5th. Adam Duvall in 6th. It will be Jacob Guyton in 7th alongside Sarah Vase in P number 8. Ken Glasser will start this race in 9th. Greg Meyer will round out your top 10 with Tyler Hagan. Rudy Samudo starting this race in P11 and P12. And looking right behind them and rounding out your grid, we'll have Embriet Hyde, Nemo Alcazar, and Cy Nathan. Michael Hune was not able to set qualifying time there in that qualifying session, and I do not believe he is actually in the session right now. So I believe it will just be 16 starters. Actually, I'll look through. Has Hune joined us? I think he may potentially have. I'm going to look at our live timing software. Yes, he has.
He is on the grid.
So just decided to skip out on qualifying. So maybe an interesting strategy that we're seeing. Avoid qualifying so you're not in the mid-pack for what's going to be a hectic start.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a fierce competition, especially through the middle of the field. It's very typical to see 2, 3, 4 wide going into turn 1, especially on these standing starts. It's one of your best ways to get positions and try and see how things string out by the time you get down to Holtman Boulevard. So it'll be quite an interesting race. We've got a lot of different drivers, a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different abilities. This track really brings out the best of all of them. So I think the lights are getting ready to come on, and here we go.
The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. Look like a pretty even kill start for both of our front row sitters, but they've got a long run down into turn number 1 and plenty of opportunities for some leapfrogging to go on. Here we go. They are already 3 wide. Here we go. It's Swanbeck, Leslie, and Navas battling hard. Swanbeck jump into the race lead with a commanding move down into turn number 1, side by side and 3 wide. So they head their way off through the first chicane. Looks like everybody has gone off to a good start. Greg Meyer got off to a flyer. He's already up 3 spots right now. Make that 2 in the Taco Bell car. Perfect time for me to mention that as he loses out on a couple spots. Gonna get hung out to dry with a wild ride over the curbs through that chicane. He keeps it going in a straight line, but a code brown moment for sure in the Taco Bell car.
Yeah, that was an absolutely wild ride going over the curbs there. Did a really nice job of keeping everything straight. So very interesting. You see Dan Swanbeck still holding the lead. Leslie is right on the tail, and Lloyd Conway had a really nice start as well. Got himself in 3rd place. We know he's trying to position himself as he runs a little wide. So this is quite interesting. We'll see what Leslie looks here to do going into turn 12. It's a good opportunity to go inside, I don't know if he wants to force the issue too early into this race, but Lloyd Conway will force the issue. He runs wide and may be able to hold on to this position, but I think Leslie's going to get it back with the momentum. And Leslie's in the grass. This is a really aggressive racing that we have here for opening lap at Indianapolis.
Oh, and that is really sketchy. Contact being made as they head their way onto the start-finish straightaway. Leslie and Navas throwing haymakers at each other at the end of this first lap. Swanbeck gonna jump out into a comfortable lead. Lloyd Conway gonna look to try and leave that chaos in his rear view mirror. A dive again from Leslie. He's driving frustrated. That is a gutsy move. That's not gonna work out at all. More contact being made with himself and Navas. We may see another move from the driver number 55, an attempted move at least. He's not very happy about how the start went for him, and can you necessarily blame him? Started from the pole, now running in fourth, got shoved out a little bit, and ever since then, he has been throwing haymakers at his competition. There may have been an incident with Duval and Guyton a little bit farther in the back, Guyton dropping down like a rock, and Duval following in due course. That's a move from Leslie into turn number 7. He keeps it going in a straight line, keeps it on the road, and jumps his way up into third. But we've had some drama at the start of this race. Those drivers dropping down like a rock. Sarah Vase also ran into some difficulties as well. You can see that moment though. Leslie running wide, coming through turn number 13, runs off into the grass, tries to keep it going, and you can see Navas trying to run wide on the outside. Contact being made. That was really just two drivers, I feel, fighting for the same piece of real estate at there on the road. You can certainly see that the tempers were flaring right at the top of the green.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to how a lot of the drivers in this field see Joshua Leslie. He's obviously got a very nice, healthy points lead. He's been really taking it to everybody all season long. They had their chance to go for it, and they absolutely seized it. As we see a couple cars collide together there, I don't exactly know who that might have been, Jacob Guyton and someone else. So that is really tricky. We saw it all through the leaderboard, just tons of green, tons of reds, lots of position changes, and we can still see we've got quite a good little battle there between 7th and 11th. So, oh, Greg Meyer, and you see he just has nowhere to go to check up, and
man,
that's a tough
I thought he nearly
incident.
cleared it. I thought he nearly cleared it. I thought the driver, the number 8, nearly got away with that without any major calamity. Of course, a small little bit of contact in that 5-car stack up out of the infield chicane. That chicane as well, there is no good line heading off through there. There is only the least terrible. So that multi-car stack up as a spin from Alcazar, heading his way off through turn number 4. He's got to drop down to P15, the last of the cars out there on the racetrack. Sarah Vase with that moment in the 30-car a little bit earlier on dropped out of contention as a move there from Conway. This is a battle for the race lead. It's himself and Swanbeck battling hard, and here comes a dive from Conway into turn 13. Look at Josh Leslie now trying to pick up the pieces here if those drivers come to blows. Close to contact as well coming out of it. Swanbeck trying to hold on as long as he can for that race lead. Leslie, your dominant driver up to this point, looking to jump back into the spot that he gained with a brilliant qualifying performance. And Lloyd Conway on that inside gonna make a 3 wide as they head their way down the start-finish stretch into turn number 1. Conway very squirrely on the brakes. Leslie sweeps around the outside. Contact being made, a hip check with himself in the 7, but that's the move from Leslie to jump into the race lead.
Yeah, Leslie, really the big beneficiary there. We had Swanbeck and Conway really fighting themselves very hard to the inside line going into 1, and Joshua Leslie was able to just take the normal main line and get through there. So that was a really nice move. He really took back what I think he felt was his, and he's certainly checking out now. He's already up to over a 1-second gap between him and second place Stan Swanbeck.
Yeah, I think Josh Leslie saw all that drama going on, and frankly, he was part of the drama at the start of this race, and he was like, you know what? I like this drama. I'm getting some airtime on the broadcast here in Slow Motion Broadcasting, which if you're enjoying it, you can hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on the racing action. But Leslie, I think you realize, you know what? It's good to be at the center of attention, but it's also good to be the dominant race leader. And I think he realized that with all that drama heading down into turn number 1. Let's take a look at this from Leslie's perspective. Picking up the drive from the 7 right in front. And it was very valiantly fought from that driver, the number 7. Dan Swanbeck was holding on to that lead for a decent chunk of it, but just like how Swanbeck was able to take the race lead from Leslie, Leslie gets it back on Swanbeck a couple of laps later. It was contact being made, so it wasn't 100% smooth, but hey, he got the move done. He's in the race lead and is now trying to run off into the sunset.
Yeah, he's put another second gap between them. You see Conway and Swanbeck, and that's where Swanbeck is really putting together a really fantastic start of the race. We're over a quarter of the way through it, and he's still in fighting contention for second place and really giving Conway and Jose Navas a really good battle. So this is going to really heat up for who can actually fill out the podium between those three. Hopefully it doesn't come into any real contact. They've actually overall done a really nice job of racing quite aggressive, but also being fair and clean and allowing the space for the race to happen. So they're going to just have a different challenge of how much do they want to race each other and risk allowing Leslie to get away. And there, Conway just gets into contact with Dan Swanbeck, spins them both out. Novus is going to be able to clear through and take second place. They both look to be continuing and will pick up back in third and fourth, so only losing a couple positions there, but certainly a lot of time. That was just maybe a little too aggressive on the brakes. You see they're fighting the inside line again. They're really taking defensive positions to get through these corners, racing so hard with each other, and right there we just kind of see the consequences of it.
Yeah, that contact being made as they had their way down into turn number 7. That was just about 2 cars fighting for the same piece of real estate. Unfortunate for them, but they're not alone in all of that drama. I believe there's been moments involving the likes of Tyler Hagan and Alcazar. We'll take a look at these moments. First involving Tyler Hagan in the 99 car. Holy cow! Oh, big contact being made. What in the world happened there? They headed their way down the Holman straightaway. Who was that? Okay, so that was the remains of the drama that went on, and Hagan having to take evasive action with that 6 car. Switched over onto the section of the road. That's not even the racetrack. That's just the road that regular infield traffic runs through. Swapped around. Contact being made. That was a huge hit to the side of Hagan's car. I believe, I'm trying to figure out exactly who that was that pile drove into the side. It may have been some Moitos actually dropped back. He's had moments of his own as well. I think we're also hearing that Jacob Goyton was involved in that drama as well. As a drama between those two gonna flare up yet again. Let's take a look at this from Goyton's perspective. Yeah, that was as a result of that drama as they headed their way off through the chicane a little bit earlier on in this race, and the stacking up of the domino effect as a result of all that still continued on. But here we go. They're back again fighting. This time it's for P3 with Dan Swanbeck and Lloyd Conway.
Yeah, they've been really going at it. They've certainly already had their couple fair shares of contact, and we see Conway's going to try again on the inside. Doesn't quite get it to stick, and they've really opened the door for Ken Glasser, who's hanging right tight behind them. So that's an interesting 3-car battle we have kind of forming. Jose Navas is sort of checked out from them after their contact. He's 5 seconds ahead of this whole little battle. So top 2 are kind of settling in their positions as we get to the halfway point of this race, but there's still a lot of positions all throughout the field that are not decided yet.
Yeah, there's still some good battles going on all throughout this field. The battle up at the front has heated up, involving Josh Leslie and Jose Navas. There's a swapperoo between those two not terribly long ago, and as we take a look at a moment involving Alcazar, that's a spin for him, heading his way off through turn number 4, a half spin, nothing too major there. But the front of the field, Navas and Leslie giving us a battle to talk about. Here we go, side by side, as they add their way down to turn number 7. That's a move from Leslie to jump back into the race lead. I wonder how Jose Navas was able to reel in those racers, though, because, I mean, Josh Leslie was able to pull up a rather comfortable gap, and here was what really kicked it off. Navas having a good run, heading his way off through the chicane. He's been keeping rather consistent lap times here in this race. Yeah, you can see the smoke up in the air for the 55. He had a moment down to turn number 1. We're going to load up this replay to see this from Leslie's perspective. Yeah, heading his way off through turn number 2, loses it on exit, loops it around. Very lucky to keep involved in that battle with a spin like that, heading out of the turn, but a big and very costly mistake there for you at one point, and now continuing on to be a race leader of Leslie.
Yeah, it certainly was. We get halfway through this race, the tires do get quite warm. The weight of the car just shifts a little much, and there he just had a little too much speed in the corner. The rear end just slowly stepped out from underneath him. Jose Navas was doing a really good job already to begin with, I think, kind of reeling him in. He was certainly putting some pressure on Leslie, so I think Leslie just overdriving the corner. There we see Michael Hunn started in last place in this race, and he gets a little loose there in turn 10. So looks like he'll get back going and is now running in 11th place. And then we did have contact again, I believe, with Lloyd Conway and Dan Swanbeck. So they may be having a very friendly discussion together in the driver's haulers. So, oh, Dan Swanbeck just giving a nice little tap to the right rear there of Lloyd Conway, sends him on his way and passes on through. I'll be interested to see if race control has anything to say on that one. It's very rare we see race control have to step in with it, but Swanbeck crossing over that inside line like that and making the contact, I may see a post-race penalty to that. We'll have to keep an eye on it from race control.
I'll tell you what, things are already pretty bad for Dan Swanbeck. This race has not gone well for him. It's going to get even worse. He has a black flag. You can see that graphic up on our screen, and that is remaining true. Of course, a 20x limit here for incident points here in this series. You pick them up for all sorts of moments. Could be an off track, could be a slight half spin, could be a full spin, could be car-to-car contact. You pick them up, you rack them up like Pokemon cards, and then when you hit 20, you pick up a penalty. So unfortunate there for Swanbeck. He's gonna be out of this race and out of contention, as there's a moment. It's a swap-a-roo very briefly for Leslie and Navas. Josh Leslie still holding on to it as it stands presently. Dan Swanbeck makes that call to come down pit lane, and I think he's decided to call it a day as a result of all of that. And let's see, I think there may have been some more drama going on a little bit farther in the back involving Jacob Guy, and he's called it a day, so he's out of this race. Embriette Hyde, though, put together a very strong drive. She's currently tied to be the hard charger with herself and Michael Hyun, who's currently, they're both up 6 spots at the present moment. So as we've been focused on the drama and the drivers just giving ourselves to talk about a bare knuckle fist fight at the front of the field, that's some very good battling all throughout the field.
Yeah, it really has. There's been a lot of different change of positions. We've seen several different interesting impacts, but overall it's been very good, very competitive racing throughout the field. We were fortunate enough to speak with Embriette Hyde just last week, and she has really been improving. She's working very hard on her racecraft right now, and it's been a pleasure just to be able to see where she's come since joining the SRG Formula 4 League. I believe that there we saw Jacob Guyton retire. I think maybe he just felt he had enough dropping through the back. He was involved in a couple incidents throughout the race. And here we see Embriette Hyde going a little wide with a little bit of a fight with Adam Duvall. So she's got her hands full to keep herself in 7th position. And right now the tightest race on the track, but we do have Aaron Van Wagner, who is kind of putting a little competition up to Lloyd Conway in 3rd as well. So definitely a mix of racing all throughout the field here. And that's really what we like to see in the Formula 4 series. It's quite a good mix, and you've always got somebody you'll be racing around up and down through the field.
And we're going to take a look at the other drama that's been going on involving Dan Swanbeck. He has not had a good race, let's be honest. I think, yeah, you can see he pulls over to the side of the road, calls it a day, and yeah, with that, the moment that befell him a little bit earlier on in this race, you can't necessarily blame him. I will say my apologies. I mentioned the DQ limit at 20x. If that was a disqualification, he would have been removed from the track immediately. So that must have been an iRacing issued black flag, not for incident points, because that isn't really a thing. There is no limit in terms of picking up a drive-through here in this series. So either that was issued by race control, or that was issued by iRacing, either for like a not served slowdown penalty or something of the sorts. But either way, tough stuff to have happened for him here in this race. It was looking promising. It was holding on to the race lead in the early stages, but ever since then, things really went to hell in a handbasket for him. Front of the field, though, it looks like Josh Leslie has been able to shake off the challenge from Jose Navas like a bad case of the fleas. They're currently separated by about 1.2, 1.3 seconds. Close battles are a little bit farther in the back, but it was tense between these two for a not so brief period of time. They were battling for a decent amount of laps, Kevin.
Yeah, it was quite a thrilling battle, and Jose Navas really hasn't let him get out of his eyesight. He's right there. We have seen Leslie make one mistake early in the race. The car has certainly been quite a handful for all the drivers to keep him between the lines. So nothing's really out of the realm, and we can still see both of them. Your top two right there as they're going through 8 and 9. Very windy part of the course, just really hoping to get back out. And Tyler Hagan's back off in the grass. Looks like he's getting himself going onto the front stretch. So he'll have Leslie Navas going by him here soon to put him down a lap. But We see them kind of getting ready to come out behind us. So it's been a pretty good race. Navas got it down to 7/10. It's been teetering between 1.2 and 7/10, and Navas is kind of putting a little pressure on him right now. It's going to be quite an interesting run these final 3.5 minutes to the finish line.
Yeah, we still got that battle to talk about. We still got a decent amount of battles to talk about here throughout this field. I will say the battle involving Adam Duvall and Embriet Hyde has cooled off just ever so slightly. It's now 1.2 seconds between those racers battling for the final 2 spots inside of the top 8. But at the front, Jose Navas looking to peak at the right time. We follow him right now in that number 4 car. I just want to run through the past couple of lap times that he has been able to set. Looking through at the past 4, been 129.3, a 130.1, a 128.4, and a 128.8. That 128.4, not last time by, but the time before that, for your P2 runner of Jose Navas, was actually his best lap of the race at all today. So that is really promising stuff. Was even quicker than Josh Leslie by about 0.3 of a second last time by, although Josh Leslie has had the upper hand on previous laps. Holds on to the best lap out of these two, the 127.832, and as it stands right now, I believe holds on to the best lap of the race. Actually, no, does not hold on to the best lap of the race. That honor goes actually to Lloyd Conway, holding on to a 127.6. So nice to keep tabs on that battle for the fastest lap of the race. But these two, oh, that's lap traffic involved in that. That may have been Sign Nathan that we saw on the other infield, heading his way off through turn number 13 there on the outside. But Leslie and Navas were going to battle, but I think as I was going on my spiel talking about Navas peaking at the right time, he did not have a good lap last time by.
Yeah, it was a little bit more of a difficult lap. He found himself kind of struggling to keep the grip on the car. As we talk about it almost every week, it's a 20-minute race, but it really does put a lot of wear on the tires. They really get warm. You're really slipping and sliding. The weight of the fuel goes down in the car. It makes them lighter. They really do have their hands full to race a Formula 4 car at the type of level that they are. And you can see just the slightest little mistake just creates a gap. And we see Leslie Navas flying over the curbs there at turn 6. So it's still right within anybody's hand. One mistake can certainly shift this race in a matter of a moment. So he's just got to be able to apply the pressure. And like we've seen, Leslie is certainly not taking it easy up in the front. He's finding the limits of his car to make sure that he can stay out front, or he'd give up the lead in a heartbeat.
Yeah, Josh Leslie still pushing that number 55 car to the limit of adhesion every single corner, and won't have too many more corners left to negotiate, as he'll be taking the white flag this time by, so it'll be one more lap of racing action for Leslie to seal the deal on yet another win in this championship. It'll be good, very good results from Jose Navas. He can hold on to that P2 in the run-up to the line. Lloyd Conway, talk about a wild race from him. He has seen every single possible thing that I feel like you can see in a 20-minute long race. He's been involved in some incidents, he's been involved in some drama, but he still looks like he'll be able to hold on to the final podium spot. We'll have a battle potentially to talk about involving Adam Duvall and Embriet Hyde. The gap between those two has closed up a decent amount as of recent moments. You can see now half a second between those racers as they had their way off through the infield for the second to last time. Adam Duvall on the past few laps has slowly but surely lost out on some time. Last time by, it was only a 10th and a half roughly between Duvall and Embriet Hyde in terms of their previous laps, but this time by, Duvall not saying a good time at all. So hey, I'm a poet and I don't know it, but yeah, Duvall really struggling on that last lap. Embriet Hyde trying to find any sort of way to get this move done to jump her way up into P7 right at the end, but that's a bad time to mention it. Navas has capitalized on a mistake for Josh Leslie. He's had a trip up heading off through the mid sector, and it looks like Jose Navas gonna punch his way into the top spot right at the very end. What is going on with Leslie? He had a stranglehold on this race. He was holding on to a comfortable gap, but it's a case of Icarus with those wax wings flying way too close to the sun. They melted. He crashed down, couldn't fly anymore, and he crashed down back to earth. It was a moment into 7. No, it's a lockup down into the turn, carries too much speed, and has a half spin on the rejoin through 8, and that's going to cost Leslie the race. Jose Navas Navas going to win it at the end of it all. Leslie, though, with a heartbreaking P2.
It's not the first time we've seen it this season. The mistakes sometimes cost Joshua Leslie some wins and where he should be on the podium. And I know he's going to wish he had that one back. 5 corners remaining or 6 corners remaining in your lap. You didn't really need to push it there. You had the 2 seconds to give. But like I spoke about before, Navas was keeping it close. It really put the pressure. Here we see Adam Duvall does still hold it off with the battle between Embry and Hyde. But that's a huge win for Jose Navas. He may be a first-time winner in this series. And that is a really well-done job. It's a great race overall by him in terms of his drive. Just minimized all the mistakes, and we talk about it week after week. You have to minimize mistakes to finish well in the SRG Formula 4 series, and he capitalizes, and we'll get to celebrate in victory lane today.
What a wild finish there. Unfortunate for Leslie. And he had that race in the bag. He had it. You can see that gap. They headed their way down that Holman straightaway into turn number 7 for the last time in this race. Leslie, though, I'm not sure whether it's just overly opportunistic driving. You can see just carrying way too much speed down in there. The thing is with these F4 cars is they're basically oversized go-karts with wings made out of plywood duct taped to the front and the back of them. So they drive like a cart. If you head off into the turn with too much speed, that back end is going to say, okay, look, you're either going to not turn in so we don't spin, or you're going to try turning in, and in the process of that, you are going to spin. That's basically what we saw there from Leslie. As soon as he hit the brakes, it was like, nope, no, no, nope, nope, nope. And then as soon as he rejoined the track with grass on the tires, they're probably screaming in agony after that slide into the turn. Nothing he could have done to prevent the inevitable. Jose Navas, though, going to walk away with the victory at the end of it all. Ram Aaron says, my own father in the YouTube chat, never count your chickens before they hatch.
Oh, certainly, and that's just a heartbreaker for Joshua Leslie. I know that'll be a real shame, but still, can't forget the big picture. He will put a little bit more of a gap between him and Lloyd Conway, and Navas, I think, is far enough back that's not too big of a jump, so he'll still be the healthy points leader going into round 7, and that's what he'll have to try and do and improve on, and kind of go back, watch the tape, learn where he was making mistakes. Let's not forget, that one mistake wasn't the only mistake made. He did have 2 or 3 there throughout the race, so he was very fortunate to begin with to be right where he was, and then kind of gave it away. It was just a real shame to see, and see how he kind of comes out next week on Tuesday to show the field again where he should belong.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how things shake out for him at the next round of the championship. Essentially going to be a home race here in the Sim Racers Group World. As for round number 7, to kick off the second half, we'll be running at Laguna Seca, of course, Sim Racers Group, that location out there in California. So running out there in Cali, it'll be a rather fitting way to kick off the second half of this championship. But let's take a look at the results, because we got some drivers looking to have a chat with us at the end of this race, and winning it all at the end of a very interesting and very dramatic 20-minute long race is going to be Jose Navas. He takes that checkered flag over Joshua Leslie in P2. Lloyd Conway will round out your podium in 3rd. It'll be Aaron Van Wagner finishing this race in 4th. Ken Glasser will be classed in P5. Greg Meyer finishes in a rather under-the-radar P6, with Adam Duvall right behind in 7th. Embry Hyde will finish this race in P8 in front of Rudy Samoido in P9. Michael Hune in P10, rounding out the top 10 in the process. Tyler Hagan will finish this race in 11th, and from Nemo Alcazar in 12th. Sign Nathan is the last of the cars to really finish this race, with Alcazar the last of the ones on the lead lap. Dan Swanbeck, Jacob Guyton, and Sarah Vase all ran into some difficulties throughout this race, and they complete the 16 cars that are classified at the end of it all here today. Kenan, a pretty wild race, and we were expecting Indy to certainly be a source of drama, and we certainly got it. Fantastic battling, sometimes going a little bit over the edge, but man, that was an absolutely fantastic race. And incidentally, I think we have got some of the drivers involved in some very good battles set to join us here in the broadcast booth. I think we'll do this in terms of the order in which they finished. So I can see Ken Glasser is up there in the broadcast booth, our P5 finisher at the end of this race. So Kenan, I'll let you kick the interviews off and have a chat with our P5 runner of Ken Glasser.
How's it going, Ken Glasser? Welcome to the Slow Motion Broadcasting booth. Do you hear me?
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. So really well done drive today. Getting P5 just looks like everybody had quite an interesting first opening lap or two, and then you really just put the hammer down and hit nice, steady, consistent laps. It looked like just a little slight hiccup on lap 7, but other than that, a really well done race. How did you feel coming out of Indianapolis?
Yeah, that was an outstanding race for me. I was lucky to dodge the three-way crash in front of me, and then some other folks had their on and off moments, so I was able to kind of stay in touch with Aaron and Lloyd up in the front, and had a really strong race and not too many mistakes, and pretty consistent pace throughout. So it was a really good outing for me.
Yeah, it really was. I think the last time I interviewed you, it was a little bit more on the rougher side, maybe a P12 or something. The P5, I'm sure that's really makes you happy going forward, looking forward to next week at Laguna Seca. What do you think was really the most challenging part to put down such consistency in the lap times? We saw so many drivers really seem to struggle with it, whether it was hitting the curbings, taking corners too wide, locking up the brakes. How did you kind of find that consistency?
Well, this corner coming up that they're showing turn 3, I was like, this is a lost time through here all the time. But beyond that, it was, just kind of keeping focused and staying clean. Oh, here's the accident, right? Yeah. Well, maybe not. Maybe the next lap. But yeah, I dodged a bunch of bullets here, but got some good runs on people, and yeah, kept it clean, which was, it was a good race. One of my best results ever, actually. So real happy.
Oh, certainly. And we're happy to see it here. We kind of talk about it on the broadcast a lot, just how much we've gotten to see over the multiple seasons, how well the drivers improve, and surrounding yourself with such a great group like the Sim Racers group, guys. I mean, that only helps it go a long way throughout the season. But looking forward to next week, I believe we're going to Laguna Seca. How's your kind of experience there? What are you looking forward to getting after it there?
Well, it's that's sort of the home track here, so it's familiar, and I generally run pretty good there. So I'm hoping I can have another strong outing. But at the same time, everybody else is pretty familiar with the track too. So we'll see. But it should make for some great racing. And this track actually, I heard a lot of comments about people not being a huge fan of the track, but the racing was really good.
It was. We saw it all throughout the intervals and the timing board. It was shifting up and down and left and right like it was a lottery machine or something. It was really interesting watching all the different battles up and down through the field. I think the flat track and the drafting opportunities and sort of the off-flowing corners really do present quite a challenge that keeps everybody close together at Indy. Now, before I let you go, sponsors you want to thank, people back home, who you want to give a shout out to, man?
I'd like to thank Jason and Tyler here at the Sim Racers Group, and the ongoing support. They've always been really helpful, both on the driving coaching, the technical side, and just kind of making it a great place to come and hang out. So whether it be the league events or coming here on the weekend to watch an F1 race, they've made a real nice community here. So shout out to those guys. And then the rest of my racers here in the group. I mean, it just makes it for a fun outing and something to look forward to. So thanks to everybody else that was on track. And thank you guys. I mean, that's it really is kind of cool to come watch the replay back and have your commentary there for us to kind of see what's going on throughout the rest of the race that we don't get the part to see. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Oh, no, thank you, man. And hey, you guys are the stars of the show. We enjoy getting to come out here and get to watch you guys race. It's week after week. It's just some really exciting racing, and just thank you so much. Really well done job on P5 tonight. We'll see you at Laguna, and enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, cheers. Thanks, guys.
And that right there was Ken Glass, our P5 finisher at the end of this race. And I'll be able to drag in the man with a car that had the sound effect that really, I wouldn't say disturbed me, but certainly threw me for a loop right at the start of the show. Greg Meyer joining us here in the commentary booth. Greg, welcome into the commentary booth. P6 at the end of this wacky race here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. How was it out there?
It was kind of wacky, wasn't it? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And the broadcast is always great. I love going back and watching it. It was a crazy one. I'm new to this track, but it felt very slippery. There wasn't a lot of grip out there, even though it was dry. It was cool, but I was sliding all over the place. So I only got caught up in one incident, but it was tight in the beginning. I made up a few places, but then at the end, I was kind of by myself the whole second half of the race.
I want to ask you about how these races usually go, because they can be a little bit hectic at certain points in time, and we saw you at the epicenter of that drama heading down the back straightaway. How is it just trying to keep a level head throughout these races that can throw so many curveballs your way?
It can be an interesting back and forth. I feel like earlier in the season, I've been trying to overcompensate and be very careful and cautious and maybe a little bit slower. But now this race, I try to just be a little bit more aggressive, and sometimes it's going to catch out, but it's a balance, I think. It's tough.
And it's definitely something worth mentioning. We're taking a look at the wild ride that you had heading through that first chicane right at the start of this lap, over the curb, getting some airtime up off the deck. Pretty terrifying, even for my person. I'll tell you what, my back was hurting just looking at that. So thankfully it wasn't in real life. But Greg, I'm going to ask you one more question here before we let you give any thanks or shout outs. Laguna Seca in 1 week's time, swapping out one fixture of the IndyCar schedule for another, and the hometown track really for the SRG world. So what are your thoughts heading off to there in 1 week's time?
I don't know, ups and downs, I guess, pros and cons. I'm really excited, love the track. On the other hand, it is somewhat smaller with a large crowd or a pretty big group, so it's going to be really tight, but I think it's going to be interesting. And Laguna gives you great overtakes and some great wheel-to-wheel action. I know coming up the hill, going in before the corkscrew is always going to be interesting back there on the backside of the track. So I'm excited. I think it's it's what everybody looks forward to, being a California kid. So it's going to be the race of the year, I think, of the season.
Well, based off the fact we've asked this question twice and we've gotten some very good responses twice, really the California love shown out here on this broadcast today. But Greg, we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go and celebrate this P6 and get some practice in for Laguna.
I just want to say shout out and thank you to my mom. I love you.
There we go. Thank you very much. That right there was Greg Meyer, and always good to have a chat with you, man, and looking forward to seeing you hit the track at Laguna in 1 week's time.
Appreciate it, guys.
And that right there was your P6 finisher, Greg Meyer, and that was very precise in terms of the other thanks or shout outs at the end of all that. But Kenan, we also have our the driver didn't do too well at the end of this race. I hope he doesn't take offense to me saying that. Our P11 finisher and series admin here in the F4 is Mr. Tyler Hagan up there in the broadcast booth. So I'll drag him in to have a little chat with you.
Hey Tyler, it's Kenan here in the slow motion broadcasting booth. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Yeah, man, a little bit of a rougher race than we've kind of been accustomed to seeing where you're at on the leaderboard. Coming up P11 today, just had a really rough opening lap in the middle of the race. Found a little bit of an issue, but how overall do you feel the race went? I know the result isn't what you wanted, but I think overall it seemed like it was a fairly okay race.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it was not my finest race. There was some action I had to avoid, and that got me into a tank slapper, and so I ended up in the wall. A couple laps later, coming down the front straight, made a move into turn one and saw Rudy coming at me, so I dove to avoid, and that's a 4.5 second slowdown. So it's just not. And then you get in your head and trying to claw back as much time as you can, and it just goes backwards from there.
Yeah, and we're looking at your onboard right now where you had the issue, and I believe it was the backstretch wall that you made a pretty good hard impact to, and kind of was able to get it going. But as we speak about with the no damage in the Formula 4 series, it doesn't hurt you by having to pit and get the car repaired, but you lose so much time. It's just makes it a challenge to really regain. But looking at next week, we are going to Laguna Seca. I know most of the drivers here are California kids. I don't know if you were one. We'll find out right now. But what are you looking forward to going to Laguna next week?
So Laguna is probably the track I've got the most seat time in the real world. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I've got, in addition to the F4 next week, I'm going and racing my 1960 Porsche Roadster at Rolex in a couple weeks. So be good warm up for that.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, that'll be a great way to get a little bit of experience, get a little familiar with the track, just kind of refresh turn in points, apexes, things of that sort. So you've got the real car on the track. I'm sure that keeps you busy as well. So you've got a lot of different experience time, and I take it the expectation of where you would want to finish next week is quite high.
Oh yeah, but there's one thing I've learned about racing Laguna in the sim is it is always close quarters and almost always a little bit of a knife fight.
Yeah, we've seen it before. It is quite an interesting, a lot of tight corners. It's got its passing opportunities, but it's very much a driver's track and how you get around there quickly. So we're all looking forward to it. I think it's kind of just set the standard here at the end of this broadcast that Laguna Seca is the race to see, and everybody's going to want to go home with the trophy there. So looking forward to next week. And who would you like to shout out? Give a good thank you to your sponsor, anybody?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank my wife, Stacy, who not only encourages me to come down and hang out at SRG on Tuesday nights, she actually encouraged me to build my own sim in my at home. So I've got some more ability to practice, and you know, she's always been super supportive of sim racing as well as the real world racing. So she's been great.
Well, quite the rarity, but that is actually fantastic. And we've certainly heard that from a lot of drivers in the series. They started racing in the Sim Racers Group facility there in San Jose, and now they've got a rig at home just so they can do it more and more and more. It really quite catches the addictive trails, as you could say, getting into this racing league. So thank you so much, Tyler. A little bit of a disappointing P11, but I know going to Laguna, you've got a lot to look forward to, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. You keep making us look so much better than we really are. Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
And that right there was Tyler Hagan, series admin and P11 finisher at the end of this race here at Indy. Kenan, we were expecting some drama. We certainly got it, but Laguna Seca in 1 week's time. It's the homecoming, really, in the SRG world. So I think there's some certain levels of expectations for some racers, but overall, just going to be the same great racing action as usual at a quite different track than this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Laguna Seca just beautiful. Be out there in the beautiful, I guess it's desert type sand, and it's a very elevated track. As we all know, the world famous corkscrew is always bound to create quite an interesting little action spot. So everybody being the home fan of Laguna Seca, you're going to have 15, 16 drivers next week, and they're all going to expect to be good enough there to finish first. So it's definitely one I just circled on my calendar.
And of course, you'll be able to tune into that action here in 1 week's time on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Same time, same spot as usual. And in fact, in about 24 hours time, you'll be able to catch round number 6 action for the SRG F3 series. They'll be running at Portimao this upcoming weekend, just part of the absolutely amazing schedule that we've got in and week out here on SMB. Of course, you can catch this SRG F4 series weekly on Tuesday nights. Wednesday nights, of course, you can see SRG F3. On Saturdays, you can see the action from the Ray Esports Formula V Weekend Warriors. We've got round number 6 of that season coming up at Jerez this upcoming weekend. And of course, the other Formula Ford Weekend Warriors and the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, you'll be able to catch on Sundays at 1:45 in the case of the FFs and 3:45 in the case of the Spec Racer Fords. That's East Coast time for those tuning into this broadcast here. And that doesn't even do it for the action that that we've got coming up here on SMB this upcoming week, as on Saturday night, I'll be able to bring you action from Ron's Race Nights. We've got a pretty good race with the Skip Barbers running at Interlagos. That'll be a very, very fun race. But that doesn't do it for all of the action we've got coming up here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. On August the 9th this year at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll be able to see the action from the United Sim Racing Association Sizzling Sebring 180. That'll be a 3-hour-long endurance race at that absolute stunner of a racetrack. I adore Sebring. It's a track that I can actually drive around well, which is an oddity in the world of iRacing, and you'll be able to tune into all of that action from that race coming up in a couple of weeks' time exclusively here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a very good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast here tonight for round number 6 of the Sim Racers Group F4 series here for season 3 of 2025, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Mullins, Kenan Miller joining me in the commentary booth, and Josh Wilkie doing a wonderful job working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you also very much for tuning us to this broadcast here on SMB tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.